So today, we begin our discussion on a topic that is called sampling theory. Sampling theory. And in this sampling theory, there are two main things. One is confidence interval. Confidence interval. And the other one is hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing. That is what we call, or that those are the two things that we shall focus on as we discuss sampling theory. Now, in our discussion, we will first of all focus on the definition of terms that are very, very key as far as this area is concerned. Now, the first term is called population. And when we talk of population, we are referring to all the items that are of interest to the researcher. That are all that are of interest to the researcher. But I want to use what is right now happening. The Kenyan voters. The Kenyan voters. Right now, how many are we? Those who are registered to vote? Not for politics. Yes, rightly around 21 million. That's the number that is registered to vote. So if you are interested in the voting pattern, that becomes your population. If you are doing a research in this school, you want to know the opinion of the students, then all the students are testimony will be your population. Now, a research or an investigation whereby all the members of the population are questioned or they're investigated is known as census. It captures everyone. Now, this is the best because it gives us complete information. But unfortunately, it is not commonly done because one, it takes a lot of time. Number two, it takes a lot of money. And number three, the data that is gathered is so voluminous, such that the probability of analyzing it accurately is reduced. Then we have something called parameter. Now, a parameter is a measure that describes the character of the population. And the most notable parameters are size. Size when inasimamiwa na capital N. We have the variance, which is represented by delta square. And then we have the standard deviation, which is represented by delta that way. Then we have the mean, which is represented by mu. And we have the proportion, which is represented by P. Then from there, the next term that is very, very popular is what we call sample. Now, a sample is simply a small group of items that are selected from the population to act as a representative. Like if you have been following these opinion polls that have been released, they have been releasing them weekly, so most likely even today they will release. So if they release, take note and read the details. Now, the last one they released, I checked and they were talking of having interviewed 9,000 voters. Now, this 9,000 is like a small group that is selected from the entire population to act as a representative of the population. And from this sample, they were telling us one person is preferred by 42%, and the other person is preferred by 38%. Now, this is what the sample showed. So then you come now and say the whole Kenyan voters, if they were to vote, 42% of these 21 million will vote for this person, 38% will vote for this person. That is what we call a sample. Now, a good sample must, number one, be representative. Representative means it must exhibit characters of the other members. You see, even in a class like this one, you may find, although now you people are not very many, what I'm saying may not really apply, but you have been in classes where you are many. You find in a class where we are many, there is this particular person who talks to almost everyone. The fellow moves from this point to that point, anajulikana na anajua almost kila mtu. Now that fellow, if he was to be your representative somewhere, chances are, as he speaks, he will be speaking the views of majority of the people. Because he's a person who talks to people, he knows their views and he knows what people are saying. But we also have in the same class, a person who is almost a road rager, does not interact with others. Yeye anakuja, anaketi tu hapo, anangoja mwalimu akisoma. Sorry, they don't interact with anyone. Even when mwalimu is out, that person is really busy concentrating on their notes. If they are not reading, they walk out. So if such a person was to be your representative, they will only talk of their own views. They have nothing to know about what the others are saying. Sorry. So a good sample must be representative. The other thing is that a good sample must be adequate. A good sample must be adequate. By adequate, we mean it should reflect the size of the population. You see, like now, if this one you are to take 9,000 divided by 21 million, what percent is that? 9,000. Or even before you give me that, what would you expect to be a good percentage? Anywhere. What would you expect to be a good percentage of the sample? Give me a figure. 50%. 50%. 5%. 15. So someone has said 50, another one 25, another one 15. Add these three and divide by 3. What is that? So kulingana na sisi, we would expect at least anywhere we have 30%. If we talk to around 30% of the people, chances are they will tell about the other 70%. Now tell me what percent this is. 9,000 out of 21 million. After you multiply by 100. 0.0423%. It's not even 0.5%. This is like a very small proportion. So, is this now adequate? That's a question as a researcher that you have to ask and answer objectively. Is it adequate? Yeah. So, a good sample should be adequate. It should be what? Representative. And it should be randomly drawn. Random means don't take from one group. You know, people who are in one group, chances are they are the same way. Not like now you are in the same group or you are in this class. Chances are your reasoning is the same. In some issues that are related to you, you are likely to argue the same way. If we go to the next class, they also have a similar way of arguing. That's why you find even in politics, we have regions where hapa tunajua ni kwa huyu, hapa kwingine tunajua ni kwa, because people in a particular locality they tend to argue the same way. Even the people you live in the house with, even those of us who are married, we argue the same way. That's why we are together. Yeah. So if this sample was collected from that cartoon, tuseme sasa umeenda Kisumu City, umechukua opinion poll, the 9,000 wanatoka hapo. What do you expect? Uende Uasin hapo the 9,000 umetoa hapo. What do you expect? Yes. But if they are spread all over, then that could give us a good picture. So that is about sample. The next thing is what we call a statistic. Now, a statistic is a measure that describes the character of a sample. And for the size, we use small n. For the variance, we use s squared. For the standard deviation, we use s. For the mean, we use either x bar or we use the expected value of x, like the one we were computing yesterday. For the population, we use something like that. We call it p hat. Now, the next thing that we need to know is called sampling. Now, sampling it can be looked at in two ways. The first way is how to identify the sample from the population. How did these guys get the 9,000? I looked at their report. They were saying they interviewed people from all the 47 counties. Now, if you divide this by 47, 4,000 you divide by 47. around 90. 191. So how did they go to Murang'a and identify 191 people? How did they come to Nairobi wakapata 191 people? If you look at Nairobi, how many constituencies do we have? It's around 14. So if you divide this by 15, you divide this by 15. Okay, thank you. Janet, welcome. So that is around 13 persons. Now, go to Embakasi or go to Starehe. How do you get these 13 people? That's now what we are saying, sampling. How do you identify? In this class, if I want one person to present the rest of you, how do I settle that one person? Do I pick whoever is closer to me? Do I pick whoever we talk more with here? Who do I pick? That becomes the sampling question. Now, in this one, there are sampling methods that are used. And these methods, they are usually divided into two. One is called random sampling methods. Now, in random sampling methods, all the members of the population, they have what we call equal and independent chances of being selected. That means if I am selected, you can also be selected. Or the fact that I'm selected does not mean you cannot be selected. Or the fact that I'm selected does not mean you will be selected or not selected. So the selection is independent. Now, these methods, when they are used, people do not complain. You see, like now, when you sit for the exam, in determining who has passed or who has not, that is a random what? Sample. It has nothing to do with this one has passed, this one has passed, nothing like that. Then we have what we call non-random sampling methods. Now, the non-random is where members do not have equal chances. There are some members who have higher chances, while others have lower chances. The chances are dependent, meaning kama nimechukuliwa basi wewe lazima uchukuliwe ama wewe sasa huwezi kuchukuliwa. Simply because, or rather, when we come now to look at whether wewe utachukuliwa ama hutachukuliwa, we are also checking mimi kama nilichukuliwa ama si kuchukuliwa. So if we are making reference elsewhere to decide on this person, that selection is said to be dependent. Said to be dependent. Now, when this one is used, people bitterly complain, especially those who are left out. Some notable cases include when they are selecting students to join Form 1. We are all aware that the government previously has been preferring students from public schools. And you find a kid from a private academy with 400 marks will be left out of a national school, while a kid from a public primary school with 380 will be allowed in the national school. And we have seen parents even go to court. And one of the reasons why, people complain about this is that that selection or that being left out is based on character that are beyond your control. Sasa huyu mtoto alisomea academy. Yeye alitupeleka huko. Yeah. No, the kid had no control. It's the parent who decided. So why should you punish the kid? Yeah. So people go to court. Now, what the government has done, because from the other side, when you look at it, it is a good policy. What do you think? It's a good policy. Because if it is left uncontrolled, only the rich will make rich. The poor will never get an access. So we must get away of also including the poor to those what? Opportunities. That's why it is done like that. But now those of us who can afford to take our kids to the public, private academies, we complain bitterly. But you forget, there's a problem that in the near future will come back to haunt us. Because hawa watoto wasiposoma, hawa wakikuwa wakora wataibia nani? Yes. You cannot be at peace when the neighborhood is so poor. You cannot be at peace when your brothers, your sisters are languishing in what? In poverty. You cannot be driving a big car in your compound and your brothers are there very poor. How do you watajua saidi mila inauzwa pesa ngapi? Na spare ni wapi na inauzwa? Na ukilala huko wanaambia wenzao wamelala kwa ile nyumba ile. You can't. So lazima as a government you get a way of including and also looking at it. You must appreciate that huyu mtoto when amepata 380 kwa public school, some of us we went through public schools. Huyu ni mtu mwerevu sana. Chances are. Because huyu mtu maybe alikuwa anatembea 5 kilometers to and fro. Huyu mtu akirudi nyumbani, kazi za nyumba, huko nyumbani, kazi ya shamba nini, jioni hakuna mafuta ya taa ya kwenda kusoma, asubuhi maybe ameenda bila hata chai. But huyu anadropiwa. Chai na nini zimejaa, stima zimejaa. Although nao watu wengine wananiambia nao watoto wa Nairobi nao wanasukuliwa na TV. So yule mwingine akitumwa kwa shamba kulima, huyu naye anashikwa na TV. So imebalance. Is a choice. How is it a choice? Ni kweli si lazima, but it's very difficult to control them. Very difficult. You can ask some of us who are already there. Unaachanga umetoa sheria kali. Hii TV sifunguliwe. Inafungwa tu when you are there. And wanapangana, wakisikia tu umeoka gate tu kidogo, inazimwa na you can think there was dead silence. Lakini hakuna. It is only off when you are there physically. As soon as umeoka tu hiyo mlango, even as soon as you go to your bedroom but unaenda to relax, inawekwa for kidogo. Kuna siku nilikuwa naona kwangu hata nimesema kila mtu aende kwa bed, TV zimo. Nimeenda kulala. Kumbe nao wamezima mataa, TV sasa ndio inawaka. Wakisikia tu umefungua kwa mlango, sikia ile bio iko huko tempo rudi. Yes. So, and that points to the fact that we cannot control human beings. I hope you are aware of that. Even in relationships, with wife, we cannot control it. It is almost impossible. We do what we do out of choice, not out of control. Where is it here? So the same thing happens here. So my point was that people complain here. The other one is when they are admitting students to universities. You find already will be admitted to a course akiwa na 43 points. But a man who has 44 points will be rejected. Because the course, the general cut-off for men is 45. If you are a man to be admitted to that course, then you will be 45. But a lady with 44, with 43, an idea. A man with 44, 43, and a is it fair? Why? But you are the same ladies who tell us what a man can do, you can even do better. So, mimi nikichukuliwa na 44, wewe uchukue na 47, because you can do better than me. Yeah?
Because they want to improve knowledge. Because you might find at the start of 45 when they are like 3 days and the rest are like
but they were in the same class. So why should you be given more marks than him?
Even in exams, you see like they write down there. Students are encouraged to apply for jobs.
No, hiyo ndio ina happen. Hiyo hatukatai ina happen. But swali letu ni kwa nini? Is it right? Saa hii practical case inawafunza nyote mkiwa watatu. The same material, the same time. Bona wewe upewe ama uambiwe umepita na fewer marks, lakini Brian anahitajike more marks. Sarah. Yeah? Adrian? There's one. They have more responsibilities. Which ones?
Wash the clothes, do all that stuff. Then we go watch TV. Maybe just rest as long as that way.
I think men, ladies, but they are a bit more responsible than men. So if they are given the chance, if we don't give them the chance, we are just trying to control it. They will say the poor and the rich. If you let many girls not go for education, they get married so high, and then that will bring more poverty. But if you educate them, you make the society.
But ni sawa tumewaleta shule. Tumewaleta shule na tukawafunza. Sasa ni wakati wa mtihani. Mbona usipite kama yeye? Hiyo ndio swali. Tumejaribu kabisa msichana amefika shule.
This is the men, they are said to be a bit brighter. So we expect that a lady, their intelligence can be a little low to the men. So we expect the men to be always ahead.
I would say the society perceives men as more capable than women. So if we don't include women more, we are not empowering them. We are increasing the interdependence rate, which leads to poverty.
Okay. Good. So, Brian, what do you have to say?
That is okay, but it's not an IQ test. We're not testing for intelligence, and we're doing academics, and we're testing other things like attention, all that. So the fact that a man is more intelligent, whether it is true or not, I'm not saying it's true. That is not. I don't think it's such a big factor. Maybe perhaps I can say that initially when those things were coming up, that was the intention, to include more women in this conversation of education. But now as time goes, we need to revise so that we also capture the reality of the
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Now, when it comes to matters intelligence, first of all, biology tells us the intelligence of a person is inherited from the mother, not from the father. You are as bright as your mother, not as your father. You can confirm that. The other report, which is already documented, is that ladies are good in computations than men. Mkawekwa hapa in the same level. You're likely to defeat me. The research shows that ladies also have good shock absorbers than men. If you subjected a lady and a man to the same amount of stress, a lady will appear like nothing is happening, while a man is almost collapsing. It is also said that ladies are good in multitasking, while men cannot multitask, which is something very true. You observe, you see. Because ladies think using their two sides of the brains, left and right hand side at the same time. But men, we already think using one side of their time. As a result, men appear to think faster. If you pose a problem to a lady and a man will give you an answer very fast. But a lady will appear to delay. It's because the man is using just one side, but a lady is using the two sides. Then that research says, because of the man thinking very fast, there are many things he has not considered. So the decision may not be very good, or he may not be very much committed. But already, having taken time, she has really considered many factors, so the decision is good and she's committed. Look at even matters in relationships. Who is likely to jump another one? Yeah, because for a man, hiyo maneno anakonklude tu hapo, and within no time, akienda huko hiyo maneno imefanya nini? Imeisha. Yeah, because it was quickly done. But for a lady, by the time he says yes, hiyo ni kitu amefikiria, ameweka kwa akili kabisa. So it is also not very easy for her to say no. Yeah. Those people who introduced education in Kenya, they also made a mistake to oppress ladies. Because men were taught 3 R's. They were riding on what you are saying, that men are not to be bright, than ladies. So they taught men 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic, which now led to the prestigious courses such as accounting, engineering, medicine, and so on. Ladies were taught what we call 3 P's: boiling, bathing, and baby. As long as a lady knows how to bathe, a guy is smart. How to boil, picking. How to baby, how to take care of a baby, that's good enough. That's why you see most of our mothers, those when you are in summer, ni walimu wa nursery school, ni nurses, community workers, hapo. Na wale walienda university, walienda kusoma home economics. Those courses, yeah. But that was a mistake, which now was also compounded by the African belief that came in 2 ways: that ukifunza msichana atakuwa kichwa ngumu. Na hiyo ingine akasema atakuwa malaya. Mama, that is the right word to use. Have you ever heard of that? Yes. Those things are there in society. Actually, even today we have some men who cannot deal with a lady who is more educated than them. Because they see them as Jobaya, they see them as people who can have bad minds. But is it true? No. We have very many ladies who are now educated. They are good wives, they are good ladies, they are obedient. Yeah. But the other thing that now is used to give ladies an opportunity here is that a girl child has many distractions in life compared with a boy child. Like today alone, these 2 ladies tukauliza, maybe ukikuja kuachia kuna mtu anakusimamisha kuachia, anakufungia achia, anakushika mkono, anataka kuuliza unaitwa nani. But for a man, brand sidhani nimefikiri mtu alikusimamisha kuachia, anataka kujua jina lako. Mawazo ndio yanasimamisha. But these ones, jana nilikuwa natembea mahali nikaona msichana ametembea tu pole pole. Jamaa anakuja anashika mabega. Na huyo jamaa ni mchafu compared na huyo msichana. Now you can imagine what now happens in the mind of this guy. One, this guy looks threatening. Sasa akitembea kichwa yake sasa zinaanza kuogopa. So you can imagine alikuwa anakuja class. So hata nikifunza mambo ya hypothesis anakumbuka huyo mtu. So the retention rate cannot be the same. So a girl child has very many distractions in life. That's why they are given some considerations. Okay, let's go back to that. Was about now sampling. The other thing is, so nilikuwa nimesema sampling has 2 meanings. One, how you identify the sample, and number 2, use of the sample to conclude about the population. And that's what I had said earlier. When they look at these 9,000, and now they want to tell us this is how the 21 million voters vote, that is now also called sampling. Then there is something else we call the sampling error. The sampling error, or before I talk of that, sampling distribution. Now, a sampling distribution is simply a group of the sample statistics. Like when you bring the means together, you bring the means, you can also bring variances, you can also bring proportions. These are the ones that will be very common in your case. So I don't want to get into a lot of details about that. About the others, the means and the population and the proportions. Then we have what we call the sampling error. The sampling error has to do with the, will this prediction come out to be? Like now when they have told us that 42% will vote this way, 38% will vote this way. Is this what will happen on 9th of August? We wait to see whether that will be the case. And they normally give plus or minus 1 error margin, plus or minus 1 error margin. But I think, with all due respect, because of these small percentages, we have not had these opinion polls coming out to be true in the reality. Since 2007, maybe you may not know because you may not have any interest, but now going onwards, you will have interest. Since 2007, the only opinion polls which came out true were in the 2010, during the referendum. The opinion polls of 2007 did not come out to be true. 2013 did not come out to be true. 2017 did not come out to be true. Now we are waiting to see whether 2022 will come out to be true. And you know the result that I told you the other day, time series, the trade. You need to check on those things. The only one that came out to be true was this one. Some of the things that could have contributed are this. This sample is too small for anyone to rely on it. At least come on to be like 20%. We have interviewed 20% of people. At least that would make sense. The other thing is, if you remember what we discussed when we were looking at the regression analysis testing with our paper, we discussed the assumptions. And there are two assumptions we discussed, which were called independence. Independence of the variable of the dependent variable and independence of the independent variables. If you look at most of these opinion polls, the people behind them are people who have already declared their support on one side. So you cannot expect that they give a poll that shows that their side is not winning. Are you getting that? Yes. There are people who have already declared. So if you want to do a very honest opinion, get someone who has not declared where they belong. Utafuta mtu yeye hana mambo na Azimio, hana mambo na Kenya Kwanza. And that may be difficult because all of us are Kenyans. Hata kama siseme mimi niko wapi, kuna mahali niko. Sindio? Like sasa mimi siwezi sema hii kwa hii class because mimi sijui wanafunzi wangu wako wapi. Na sitaki mtu akiniangalia kwa class aniangalie in a different angle. So mimi ukiniuliza siasa nitakwambia sijui niko wapi. But ukweli ni kwamba kuna mahali niko. Hata kuna mahali huko. So mimi ukiniambia nifanye opinion poll, so nonetheless now you get a foreign. That's now what happens. You get a foreign. But also the question is, nani huyo ameendea huyo foreigner? Unajua tunaweza tumana huko Tanzania na mwenye tumetuma ameambia huyo jamaa wewe ukikuja wewe ni wetu wewe useme hii na hii. It creates a lot of what? Dilemmas. Now how you can solve that is then you will contract very many people. Very many pollsters. Huyu alete zake, wale wa Kenya Kwanza walete zao, Azimio walete zao, wale wa Neutral walete zao, zote uchukue average. At least that will give you an indicator.
But the ants reporting to have a side, so
you know now they will report what this group has said. Now that is unethical. What I'm saying,
they can't say those reports, for instance, poll results. You can also find them on the website. Then somewhere you can refer or get the same thing.
What I'm saying is, get like 10 or 15 companies that do opinion polls, or you contract different people. So in the process, kwa hiyo watu 10 na kitu, kuna wale wa Azimio, kuna wale wa Kenya Kwanza. So when they bring their biases, the biases will cancel out, and somehow it will neutralize, and you'll be able to get a good indicator. But ukichukua mtu mmoja, it is automatic. There will be some biases. Okay. So that's about the error. Now from there is what we call estimation. Estimation is what I have said here. Now that we are saying 42 and 38, that is what will happen. And there are two things that we do in estimation. One is called point estimation. Now, point estimation is where you are giving us exact estimation. For example, you tell us the mean of the sample is the mean of the population. Like when tumesema hapa, hii 42% ndio tutapata at the 42. That's called point estimation. Now, this point estimation is not very good to use because it is rarely achieved. What is good to use is called interval estimation. Interval is where you tell us we expect 42. However, tunaweza enda chini tufike 39 ama tuende juu tufike 46. So you give us what? Interval. Now interval is more practical. Actually, in life, you should always use this interval estimation in your engagements. It's only in two areas where it's advisable to use point estimation in your engagements. One is matters your God. Thou shalt not have what? Any other God. Number two, matters your spouse. If you are married, it is advised ukae na your spouse. Studio. Yes. Hapo hakuna hatua hizi. But hii mambo ingine yote, you create an interval. And it is also what mkifanya auditing, you'll be told auditors do not say that we have audited these books of accounts and we have found that they are accurate. If you say they are accurate, you are telling us they are free. It is not true. What we say is that it reflects a true and fair view. So anyone who relies on that information and they suffer, they cannot take it to a court of law. Or even if they took it to a court of law, it will be very difficult to argue. Because where does the word true stand? Where does the word fair stand and end? Some of these things are very, very difficult to prove. Yeah, very, very difficult to prove. And okay, so this is the one that we are going to use, the interval estimation. Now, if you look at the diagram that is already drawn there in your books, the interval estimation, this is what we call the confidence interval. Then there is this area called the error margin. That's why I told you they say plus or minus. Now the plus here plus 1 and the minus is here 1. Now this is what you are doing the other day in the normal probability distribution. When you are saying if you want, this is our mean, and then this is our x1. Tukisoma kwa table, tulikuwa tunasema 0.5 minus, tunapata here. Yeah, so that is exactly what we are going to do. So with that now, we can do the questions. So questions read for us, question number 1, 5.
Started business in January 2022, selling photocopiers with a
No. Page 5. The one I gave you yesterday.
An importer packs in packets containing a nominal 25 grams. His filling machine is known to work at a standard deviation of 10 grams. A sample of 50 packets has a mean weight of 128.5 grams. What is the 95%? What is the 95% confidence for the population mean weight delivered by the machine? Assume the weight of the machine is delivered to the packets is normally distributed.
Thank you. Now, when you read these questions on sampling theory, there are several things you need to establish. Number one, is one in your confidence interval and your hypothesis. That's the first thing. Those things are already in the notes. Sasa hii tunajua iko kwa confidence. And even in the question statement, you can see they ask you what is the 95 confidence. Number two, you must ask yourself, is this population known or unknown? And population is said to be known if you can see this sample plus 1. So are you able to see this one? Is it there? Yes or no? Yes. So if yes, that is a population that is known. So that's how you can known population. Known population. The third thing that you must be able to know is this one sample or two samples? Ukiangalia kwa maneno ya this question. Somewhere the second sentence says sample. Can you see that statement? Does that reflect one or two samples? One. So one sample. Or single sample. The other thing you should know is, are we dealing with the mean or the proportion? And that one again, you get it from the question statement, which says, what is the 95% confidence for the population mean weight? So is that talking about the mean or the proportion? The mean. It's a case of one mean or single mean. So when you have it that way, it now becomes very clear that the formula to use is X bar plus or minus Z alpha out of 2 standard deviation divided by the root of n. So in this question, the mean is what? The mean of the sample is 128.5. So plus or minus Z at 0.05 out of 2. Multiply by the standard deviation. The standard deviation is 10, which is divided by the root of n, which is 50. So, when you go to the tables, you will go to look for 0.5 minus 0.05 out of 2, which is 0.475. Square your normal tables. Go inside Ruko after 0.475. Niambie alafu usome the value in the row and the value in the column. Good. So plus or minus 1.96. That's how you get it. Now multiply by 10. You divide by the root of 50. 128.5 plus or minus. So multiply this and give it 2 decimals. .77. So subtract that. Subtract this from this now. 125.73. So this is mu. One at 1.27. So what we are saying is we are 95% sure that the mean should be 128. But inaweza shuka kidogo ifike 125 ama ipande juu kidogo ifike 131. And now you can see sampling at work. We said sampling is the use of the sample statistic to estimate population parameter. Naona tumeanza hapa na mean ya sample. Tukakuja hapa kumalizia na mean ya population. Is that okay? Okay. On your own, you shall handle question 2. In the same way, you see that to be a formula. It is the description is the same. So the figure to tabadilisha for question number 2. Brian, read for us question 3.
Sample in 5 parts of the strong carbon 10 grams with a standard deviation of 12 grams. Find an appropriate 30% confidence interval for the population which the people is assuming the population function.
Thank you. That's good. So now, the first question: have you seen delta? Have you seen the standard deviation for the population? Is it there? So if not, that population is known or unknown. Huh? Is it known or unknown? It is unknown because the standard deviation of the population is not there. So unknown population. The second thing that you need to know, is it single sample or 2 samples? Which is hiyo standard deviation tunakuuliza which is which. Ni standard deviation ya nani hiyo? There are 2 standard deviations, It's not just standard deviation. Kuna standard deviation ya population na kuna standard deviation ya sample. So we are looking for the population. So it's not just standard deviation. It's not just standard deviation, but standard deviation for who? I was asking, is it 1 or 2 samples? So it's a single sample or 1 sample. And then, is the question talking about the mean or the proportion? Mean. So it's single mean. So if that is the case, the formula used is X bar plus or minus T 1 minus alpha out of 2 n minus 1 you multiply by S, you divide by the root of n minus 1. The root of n minus 1. So this becomes, the mean there is what? The mean is N20 So plus or minus T 1 minus, we are told 5%. N is the sample size is what? 25 minus 1 multiplied by S. The standard deviation S is what? 12. You divide by the root of 25 minus 1. So 1020 plus or minus 1. Oh, this one, you go to the T tables, When you go to the T tables, you go inside. You look for where it's written two-tail confidence. Look on your right hand side. Two-tail confidence. You can see that, right? Now move to the left, towards the left. Usimame mahali kuna 95%. Then utateremka mpaka mahali kuna 24. Because this is 24. Nisomee what is there. Good. So multiplied by 12, divide by the root of 24. So 1020 plus or minus 2 decimals. .06. So subtract 14.94. Yard return 25.06. So you will do the same with question number 4. Question number 4.
Why do we choose the two-tail?
Because you see we are saying plus minus. So the error margin is on the higher side, the lower side. That's why they are two. But kama ulikuwa tu unataka the higher side, it's 1, or the lower side. Because there are also instances, unajua, the maximum it can go ni hii. Haiwezi pita hapa. Kama kutakuwa na makosa, it can only be lower. So now that you take 1. So now to submit question 5.
Question 5. A random sample of transactions in a set of accounts is taken for investigation by a firm of auditors. Out of the sample of 500 entries, 10 reads a error of entry corrected. Estimates the identified interval for the proportion of error in the mean population of transactions.
Thank you, that's good. So have you seen the standard deviation of the population there? Yes or no? No. So that population is what? Unknown. How many samples are there? One. Just one sample of 500 items. So it's single sample. Is the question addressing a mean or a proportion? It is? Mean or proportion?
Proportion.
There is even the word proportion that is there. See there? But even in the absence, a proportion is a number, is one number expressed in terms of another one. So when you see a statement that tells you this out of this, that makes it a proportion. Yeah. So it's a case of single proportion. It's a case of single proportion. So the formula that we use in this, first of all, we need to get the sample proportion. The sample proportion is, we are told it is 10 out of what? 500. Eh? 10 out of 500. Zero 0.02. So the formula that is used is sample proportion plus or minus Z alpha, you divide by 2, multiplied by sample proportion, 1 minus sample proportion, you divide this by n, then you get the square root. You get the square root that way. From there now, we know this is 0.02 plus or minus Z at 0.05 out of 2. Multiply by 0.02, 1 minus, you divide by n, which is 500. So this is 0.02 plus or minus. Hii ni ile tulikuwa tu tumesoma kwa the first question. So 1.96. So solve this straight and give me Mhm. Point 0.062. 0.02 plus or minus. Give me this now to be decimals. 0.01. 2.
I've done direct 1.96 times 0.01.
Oh, so this is 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you multiply by 1.96, check whether it's giving you 0.012. So subtract. Zero point 0.008, 0.032. So you shall do question 6. Na hapo wanasema 30,000. 30,000 itatumika. You see, this one is for 1. This is for 1. Sasa ukaambiwa kuna 10,000, whatever. Now you take this, you multiply by 10,000, and you take this, multiply by 10,000, so that you don't match them now to whole numbers. Yeah. Maybe get past paper. Hakuna 2,000 hapo Brian. Nimesema ukiambiwa for example. Because your swali inaongelea about what? So ukishafanya mfike hapa, this is now for 1. So ukiambiwa sasa kwa hiyo bank kuna 30,000 accounts, sasa una multiply hii by 30,000 na hii ndio ujue the real account numbers ni ngapi in those 30,000. So this topic is not really a standalone topic on its own, but you can attempt this question of June 2013. June 2013, question 4A. June 2013, question 4A. But as I said, hii haikuwake na maswali peke yake. It's just like a small thing where inafichwa kwa other topics. So as we go by and by, what tunaiona. Good. So we now proceed from there to discuss the next thing, which we have called hypothesis testing. And when you talk about hypothesis is a pre-existing opinion. That's how we can define a hypothesis. Is a pre-existing opinion. And I told you the other day, when you see a person for the very first time, automatically emotions work. You generate emotions. And these emotions, they either make you like the person or dislike the person. And I told you also, this is the one that if it is nurtured, it grows to be known as what? Love. And this one, if it is nurtured, it grows to be called hate. Now, this is the truth for every normal human being. Even right now, as you look at me, and I also look at you, your body is automatically generating what? Emotions. You are either liking me or disliking me, and the same applying to me. It's only that we don't keep on telling each other that maybe nikikuona, I like you or I dislike you. Or nowadays, you people, you are saying, I feel you. So that is what happens. Now, these two, they are what we call the opinion. So immediately you see a person, your emotions react and they give you an opinion. That opinion labels me as a good person or as a bad person. If I'm good, you like. If I'm bad, you dislike. That opinion now guides the action that you take. If I'm good, you come near me. If I'm bad, you go away from me. Those are the actions. The action you take guides the results that come out. When you come near me, obviously there will be results. When you go away from me, there will be results. Like now that you came to my class, you are listening to me as a result of coming near me. If you did not come, you will not be listening to me. That will still be a result of not coming near me. Whatever results that come out, it is either good or bad. It's either good or bad. And the result is good. I think yesterday I was telling you about the expected and the actual. The expected is also part of the opinion. The actual is now the results. The results are good if your opinion is in agreement with the reality. You thought that I am good, and therefore you came near me, and for sure I am good. So the results will be good. You thought that I'm bad, and you ran away from me, and for sure I'm bad. The results will still be good, because you will not suffer from being near a bad person. And the opposite is true. You thought that I'm good, but ukweli I'm bad. So ukakuja karibu na mimi, now you are suffering. Or you thought that I'm bad, but ukweli ni kwamba I'm good. So ukanitorokea. And now you are suffering because you are losing what you could have gotten near me. So hypothesis testing, we have said of hypothesis, we have said it's a pre-existing opinion. When we talk of testing, we are now coming to check this opinion here. Is this the reality? The fellow looks good. Is it true that is good? Looks bad. Is it true that he is bad? We have just said that we are using a sample, for example, the mean, to conclude about the population. So what we saw in the sample is what is making us to conclude about the population. But after you conclude, time comes for the reality. Now, in the reality, it is when now you know whether that was right or wrong. Hope you're getting what I'm saying. Ukiniona hivi uone mimi ni mzuri, na uamue kunikaribia. Time comes wakati sasa utanikaribia, and you be near me. And that is now the time utaona nini? Reality. So kama your reality is the same as your opinion, the results will be good. But if they are different, the results will be bad. And I told you it is very, very important to test this more so where results can be what? Bad. If they are to be good, no problem. But where they are to be bad, you need to be very careful. Now, this testing it is also the one that says it's not everything that glitters that is what? It's gold. You need to confirm because every gold must glitter. So we take several steps. There are actually 6 steps. The first step is called hypothesis. Now, the hypothesis, there are 2 types of hypotheses that we form. Ya kwanza inaitwa null hypothesis, which is usually written like this. The null hypothesis is formed to deny the current opinion. Umeniona ukafikia ni nzuri. Kwa sasa uanze kujiambia but kama si nzuri. Kama it does not. So that is called now the null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis, it is formed to agree with the current opinion. Umeniona ukafikiria mimi ni mzuri. Alafu sasa unasema na kweli sijakosea, this guy is good. Now that is called what? The alternative. And as I told you when we were looking at the ability test, anytime you meet anyone for whatever kind of engagement, because we meet people for various what? Engagements, including the one you have with me as a teacher. You should start from here. No, in law, they say everyone is what? Is innocent until proved. But now here we say everyone is guilty until proven. Everyone is a suspect until you confirm they are saint. So you look at it in that perspective. And I also told you, people who are smart and people who want to con you, they will use 2 ways to deny you this opportunity. One of the ways is coming your way when you are very smart. When someone is smartly dressed, we take that they are good people, they are harmless. Any offer they make to us, we accept it. So mtu akikuja kwako ameng'ara kabisa, be very careful. Na sina shida na kung'ara, it's very, very important, but be very careful. Maybe the ladies may not know, but for us men, we don't just go to a date, especially the first one, when you are poorly dressed. I remember. Akutengeneza picha, chome picha. Those of us who have grown in the village, we would even borrow suits from our colleague. You are going to see a girl from a distant village. So now basi tunaenda naye. So based on that suit, maneno yako inakubalika. Later on nakikaa kwa nyumba na kuuliza ile suit tutaosha nini? Hakuna suit. And by the time anakuja kugundua sio yako, already ashafika nyumbani na si hiyo maneno imeisha. Yes. I think the Nairobi men now they don't borrow suits, they borrow cars. See there? Yes, they borrow cars. Yes. When you are smart, your proposal is easily accepted. You're saying about the other one is when you tell someone they look familiar. Now, when someone is familiar, or when I tell you look familiar, I'm simply telling you we have earlier on met. Even for now, your memory is not helping you to remember this. And because it appears bad manners, not to remember people you have interacted with. Na utaki kuonekana you are bad manners, hata unamwambia look familiar. When you tell a person you look familiar, it is very easy to accept their proposal. Again, men will tell you don't just meet a lady and make your proposal immediately. It will be rejected. Na kimuonea tuseme that this class yeye anakaa hapa na huko na uone ufikirie chenye umefikiria. Kwanza kesho unakuja unahamia karibu na yeye. Hata uongei hata hakuna salamu. But as mwalimu teaches, people checking our notes. Mwalimu amesema nini? Hivyo tu. Within a week, mshajuana, you can take a cup of tea. Within 2-3 weeks, you can even buy lunch. Namna hiyo, after a month or so, now you can say what you want. Nowadays, naona hapa na mtu anasema niko kwa akili yako.
Yeah, you should clearly say what you want. To save us with-
Does it work?
Yeah, because if you don't want the same things, kila mtu anajikata.
Like now in your case, tuseme umepatana na mtu leo tu, umekuja tu, tumepatana, alafu nikuje nianze kukulemea maneno. Will you listen to me?
Yes, I would, but if it's not what I want, I dismiss.
No.
Yeah.
Then it must be very interesting. This generation was very interesting. How do you even dismiss me the first
You
day?
don't know me.
Yes.
Yeah, but if it's not, if I am not watching and if I wouldn't want you to pursue for 1 month anyway. Nikwambie mimi sitaki, so.
What if unataka? Let's start from there. Yes.
What if our want a lady, I can give it a chance, like, you are the star.
How do you know that you're like?
Yeah. Yes,
How do
you've
you
met
know
him
what
now.
time?
What about you?
How do you know that your wants are going to align with your
I
thoughts?
asked, what do I?
Some things cannot be expressed.
You know you're
One
going to
day.
stay
One
right
day.
now.
Sikatai.
I cannot let my dreams, my ambitions,
No, but I want
what I
to
am
see.
doing now.
Do you want a relationship? Do you want
No. This minute, let's say Brian is talking to you and say that how patience are you? Do you expect Brian to say, no, I'm not that. He's in this, you know,
People don't even go into that extent. People don't even go into that extent. Eh? The first day umekuja kwa hii class, I ask you that we take a cup of tea together. Would you come? Hey, people don't even that far. Hey, umekuja tu, nikuja nikwambie, twende nikubaie kahawa. Utafuata? That's what you're saying. Eh, we would expect ordinary. Number one, I don't expect, it's not expected that number one kuja nikwambie. But nikikuja nikuambie, na wewe on your side you expect you useme ukatai in a honorable way. Nikwambie leo niko busy, wacha tunatafuta time. But you don't just go and some mtu mnapatana. Pa.
But I think those 2 ways ways wanatumia sana. Kuna hilo.
Yes, they are used.
Unaona anakaa vizuri, suspect ni hivi. Anakwambia, I think I know you. Yeah, like for me yesterday, nikipita tu hivyo ananiongelesha ati ananijua na mimi simjui. No, just kidding. So, but nishaibiwa hivyo.
It happens that way. Actually, hata mtu alikwambia na kutaje jina. Because some people will tell you, yes, you are patient. I know you. Don't just accept. Alikujulia wapi? Wacha akukumbushe alikuwa mlipatana wapi, walikuwa na nani? Because even some guys will just guess. Now, chances they make their guess to be good. Yes? Mtu anaweza kuangalia tu unakwambia wewe si sana. Na for sure wewe ni sana. How did you know? And you know, and with all due respect, even in religious circles, because I'm a religious person, it's also a way that is used by people to con others in religious circles. Then nakwambia Mungu amefanyisha hapa mtu anaitwa Brian. Anajua unaumwa na kichwa. Na chances za hiyo uko na kahedi. Sasa ukishasikia hivyo ati umejulikana. So you just surrender to any proposal is given. Yes, don't just surrender. Yes, with all due respect. I'm saying with all due respect. So you need to really test. Okay, let's come to number 2. Number 2 is where you give us the significance level. Significance level is what we have been calling alpha. In our earlier discussion, I've told you alpha is what it means for the percent to be 100. But now in this one, it is the amount of evidence required to reject a proposal. If I come your way for a proposal, we would expect you don't reject or accept immediately. You say, give me time. Now that time, you go out and search more information about me. When you go to search more information about me, there are people who will tell you good things about me, and those who will tell you bad things about me, and then that will be the total. Assume that here maneno yote tumeambiwa ni 100. This one like here tumekuwa tukitumia kwa confidence, tumekuwa tukitumia 5. This is 95. Now this 5 here is the bad thing that we require to confirm so that we reject the proposal. And I told you, even in normal relationships, and you have seen this, or you will see, watu hukosana sababu ya kitu kidogo tu. Mumekaa na mtu for a long time, umemfanyia mambo mzuri, you have given them favors, but on this one day, umekosea tu kidogo, the relationship is in a mess. Or the fellow is mad. Sasa unasikia mtu akisema, yaani mimi tumekaa na yeye tu hivyo, siku moja tu nimeleta hii maneno yote. Kitu moja tu hivi nimeshindwa nimeleta, because the evidence required to reject the proposal ni kidogo sana. Is it a class like this one? I've taught you now for almost 2 months. Na nimekuwa nikiwafunza vizuri, hata na kujanga class on time. Ngoja nikose kukuja siku 2. Siku 2 tu out of the many others. You find people complaining, ni kama sijawahi kuja hiyo class. Do you see these things in relationships? Mekaa na mtu, even where you work, you have been very faithful, you have been very good for all those years. Lakini leo kuna kitu kameenda kombo. And they are mad at you. Umechelewa tu kidogo. Nao hata unakuwa someone, barua ndio hiyo ikuja. Philip, time for your class is not yet. Okay, so that is now what we call what? Alpha. And in making these decisions, there are 4 possibilities. There are 4 possibilities. The proposal or the hypothesis could be true or false. The decision you make could be to accept or to reject. If you accept a true hypothesis, ikikuja kwako nikwambie nakupenda, na for sure nakupenda, ukubali, that is good. But nikikuja kwako ninakutanganya, nakwambia nakupenda na sikupendi, na ugundue ni uongo, and then you reject that as true, or rather that's the correct decision. But if you reject a true hypothesis, for sure nakupenda, alafu ukatae, that is called type 1 error. Ama sikupendi ninakutanganya tu, ninakuenjoy, na wewe uende ukifikiria ninakupenda na kubali, that is called type 2. This is more dangerous. Type 2.
Yeah.
I think it depends on circumstances. Let's take a case like this. Unaona mtu amekuja and you think akona interest na wewe, na umeanza kurespond appropriately. Then finally nakwambia nothing like that. Mimi hiyo uliona nikifanya ni kufanyia tu like any other brother or any other sister. Hiyo ni type gani? Sio ni type 2 hapa. It was false, but wewe ukafikiria ni, and it's very embarrassing. Maybe Brian and maybe can tell you it's very embarrassing. Saa hiyo ulikuwa ushanunua maua, ushatuma hiyo time ulikuwa kahawa hapa na pale. Alafu naambiwa oh, nothing like that can work.
Lazima ujaribu, understand the efforts.
Lazima uko umejaribu, but now when you are, it is confirmed that it can't work. It's very what? Embarrassing. Yeah. The same thing can happen. Tuseme umeenda mahali ukafikiria hapa unaweza kuwa na biashara nzuri. Tuseme ni hoteli na umeinvest. Watu kweli ni kwamba watu wa hapa wanataka hoteli. Hiyo ni gani? Bado ni type 2 Ama tuende tuseme umeenda hospitali na wewe si mgonjwa. Ama tuseme wewe ni mgonjwa. Watu wakupime waseme wewe si mgonjwa, aenda ukapumzike. Brandi kutorara, kujarara vizuri, you are tired. Hiyo ni type gani? Type 1. Is that dangerous? Yes, it's very dangerous. Compared na ile ingine umepatikana uko na wamekupima wakakwambia wewe ni mgonjwa na si mgonjwa. Hiyo ni type 2. Yeah. So when you are making decisions, there are these 2 possibilities and you need to be very careful about it. Number 3 is called test statistic. Now test statistic is where now you calculate, and it's where now you gather this information. You don't just accept a proposal, you go and consult. And this is why we say maybe we can only advise patients. The rest of us we are here like to sharpen the apple, but maybe also in other areas. You need to take time before you confirm any relationship. Take time, because time italeta hii maneno. You know, truth comes out when least expected. Yeah, with time. Aiza kuwa tu nakudanganyanga mimi sijaoa. Na umekaa ukifikiria mimi sijaoa, and we start thinking there is a hope. Until one day we are taking a cup of tea somewhere and another lady passes by, anatusalimia mwenye anajua na ananiambia na ukifika nyumbani usalimie mama Helen na umwambie ile mambo tulikuwa tumeongea na sasa hapo ukweli imejulikana. You need to take time. I told you, let this person admit you to their space. Let me introduce to my colleagues when tunasoma na wao, tunafanya job na wao, kuja kwa familia yetu in some family functions, even when you are not known. When nani? Utakaa tu kwa umati. Na utasikia watu wakisema, yule Kimani, yule wachana na yeye. Yule tunajua. Utasikia watu hata hawajui ni wewe wanaambia. Hata ukweli utajulikana. That's now called the test statistic. Sasa ukishapata hiyo maneno, you now come with step 4, which is called the decision rule. Decision rule is zile sheria zako umejiwekea. Again, if I use the same thing for the relationships, when ladies say, I want a tall, dark, handsome. Now, hiyo ni sheria yako. So whoever comes your way now, what you have established, unaanza to check, is it tall, is it all those kind of things. Then whatever now you find, you make conclusion, step 5. You make conclusion either to accept or to reject. And then the last thing now you say, what does that mean? What is the implication of that? So those are the steps that we follow in hypothesis testing. So we stop there for now. Then we will pick up from there in the next lesson.